Hey guys, it's Tombox here. Welcome to MST.TV's Ultimate Matchup Counter Guide, March 2019 edition. 2019 March, does that mean it's going to happen every month? Maybe, depending if the meta is going to be shifting or not, or if there's new decks introduced. Then I can have a smaller bite-sized segment for those ones. I am still going to be doing hand trap cheat sheets, don't worry, because those are much more easy to consume, and I can go into the in-depth interaction of each hand trap, which is what I think to be a bit better for people that want a better understanding. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about hand traps, techs, and floodgates in here versus a variety of decks. But in this segment, I'm not doing decks, I'm going to be doing plays, because a lot of the current meta are based around certain plays being played against you, and then you just die to them because you couldn't answer them properly. So this is my little cheat sheet for you guys. You know, I'm like your buddy in high school that you want to copy the homework off of. Man, like, dude, I'm gonna fail class, and instead of failing class, like, dude, I'm gonna bubble out. You know, it's kind of the same deal, and I'm gonna be like, here, take this, study it, and maybe you guys can evolve it a bit more and add more to it, and you know, get a better understanding of how your interactions work. So feel free to leave down in the comment section below if there are things that you disagree with or things that I should probably elaborate on and add on to. So let's get into this. So the plays that we're going to be talking about would be the summon sork plays that are people that are making basically in every deck that runs danger. We have Saryuja plays, you have Guard Dragon, Thunder Dragon plays, we have Time Thief Redoer to Azathoth combo, basically the Bardiche combos, and then there's the Orcus plays that leads to major OTKs. Sky Strikers are still very strong, so we're gonna throw that in there as well. And don't forget about our favorite cheap deck of them all, which is not very cheap if you put everything in, Salamans, and how to deal with them. So this is it. Let's start off with the easy stuff, hand traps. I just noticed that my hair is kind of like the anime douchebag nerd. Don't worry, you guys don't have to see my face for this part. Wow, what an easy chart to read, guys. So there's 7 plays across the top, and the hand traps are all across the left, or down the left column. So if you see a check mark, it means it's good. If you see a dash, it's situational and maybe inconsequential. And if you see an X, it means it's pretty bad, because it usually leads to a -1 on your own side, so it's not very good. So let's start off with Ashe Blossom, everyone's favorite hand trap, the best hand trap, or second best if you like Max C. Unfortunately, Max C is not, well, with us right now. Hopefully he comes back. But starting off with Summon Sork play. Many decks go into the Summon Sork play because Ripodakis into Summon Sork, it's just pretty good, I would say. Well, of course this is good because you can prevent the summon from coming out. So Ashe is directly good. Saryuja draw 4, you can prevent the draw 4. Remember, only works if they do have the draw 4, so well, preventing draw 4 is already pretty good. You know, draw 4, put back 3, whatever. It's a hand fixer. It unbricks them and lets them extend. Stops the extension. I think that's always a good move. However, I think Valor, on the other hand, is much better, but we'll get into that in a bit. Next, we have the Phantom Knight Time Thief Azathoth combo, aka you can use it to hit the Bardiche. Hitting Bardiche will not let them mill the card into the graveyard. It is not a cost to put into the graveyard, so it will prevent basically the setting and the card in the graveyard, ultimately taking away the Phantom Knight launch. Versus Salamangreat Control, it's a bit more difficult to say, because honestly, they only really need to search their deck once, and it's pretty good to stop them on the draw phase, because a smart player would activate the Salamangreat Circle, and then they can stop it from there. But the issue is they could have everything in hand already, and they can just go off regardless, making the Ashe inconsequential. So it's a bit situational. Honestly, I think hitting Gazelle is probably the better bet, because you can prevent them from dumping a useful card in the graveyard that they can retrieve later. Preventing that, I think, is a bit more essential. Maybe if they don't have a spinny, they need that spinny, you can cut their combo short. Or if they want to put out a counter trap, the Ashe basically cut off the counter trap or the Salamangreat Rage that could pop 2 of your cards. So that's where Ashe would stand best, I think. That's just my opinion here. But if they already have everything, then it's, well, too bad, so sad. You wasted an Ashe. What about Thunder Guard Dragon? Now, Thunder Guard Dragon typically have the Summon Sword play and the Saryuja play, so it's already very good. But against like the Thunder Dragon stuff itself, or maybe the LP, the Guard Dragon LP, I would say it's better to hit the Saryuja and Summon Sork stuff. I mean, you can hit the Thunder Dragon Roar, Thunder Dragon Dark. That's pretty good, but then they get to extend a full Dragon Play, which can still rip out 2 cards out of your hand. If you burn a hand trap, you're starting your hand with 2 cards instead, and that's just, I just think that there's too many things in the Thunder Dragon to hit, because they have the line of the Dragon plays and they have the line of the Thunder plays. Next, we have the Sky Striker. Sky Strikers is a bit timing sensitive. You can probably use it against Engage. First card that they play, Engage, just throw it because they have nothing better to play. If they had something better to play, they would have filled up their graveyard already. If they filled up their graveyard and then you see like them dropping like Array or like something like a multi-roll, because normally you'll see a multi-roll come out first because they want to maximize on the number that they can get. You can probably hold off on the Ashe and try to negate the second Engage, or you can also use it to stop Shizuku if that's the first thing that they do, which these are the situations that you want to aim for. Otherwise, if you do it to the first Engage, it's a bit of a waste because they'll add it back with Kagari and they'll just draw an additional card, giving you a minus. Next, we have the Orcus plays. Orcus OTK or Orcus board setup. I know that the Orcus plays can lead to the Phantom Knight setup. If they're going first, then, well, tough luck. I guess against Orcus, you can hit the Nightmare Mermaid because Nightmare Mermaid would summon out of the deck. And if they chain block you, that is the crappy part. If they chain block you, you have to negate something else. Try to hit for the Nightmare Orcus, or you should try to hit for the Harp Horror. Preferably something that doesn't let them put the body out early and blocking them from getting into Galatea entirely. Alright, so that's just my little summary there. And, well, if you agree with it, just keep watching. Next, we have Ogre. Ogre, we can hit Summon Sork because it prevents the arrows from happening, and without arrows, you cannot summon anything out of the deck. So Ogre does work against Summon Sork. Saryuja. If they have 4 materials, Saryuja will activate. You can pop it, you can kill off all the arrows. And that is quite a bit of a setback, especially if they're trying to go into like Thunder Dragon or they're trying to go into their Phantom Knight plays. It's harder. I'm not saying it's possible, but it does stun them. And if you pop their cards, taking away all the arrows is definitely something that they have to work around, so it's not bad either. But if you can prevent the whole Saryuja from happening, like a step back with Summon Sword, I would probably go for that. Of course, you can judge it based on the number of hand traps you have available. Next, we have the Phantom Knight Time Thief play. You can use it to hit the Time Thief. Time Thief has to like detach before it can do anything. So before it can detach, it has to activate because the detaching is not a cost. So then you can just chain Ogre and just pop it and it's dead. Yeah, that's it. Not too much to add there. What about Salamangreat? Is Ogre good against them? Yes. If you hit the Lady Debug, the turn's over, I guess, unless they have like a monster reborn to reborn the Ladybug to convert it into the Salamangreat Balinx. Otherwise, you can also hit the Gazelle. You can hit Gazelle, you can hit, there's actually more targets. You can also hit the Mirage Stalio. Just taking away bodies makes them use more material. Gazelle is a decent hit because it can prevent them from going into the Mirage Stalio. If they don't have enough level 3s on board, they need to have an additional extender to get into the Mirage Stalio. I guess it's kind of iffy, but Debug is instantly a turn skip, so that's really good. What about Guard Thunder Dragon? You can hit the Summon Sword play. Otherwise, everything else is quite futile because if they summon out a Thunder monster, it's just going to convert. Basically, it's just going to convert into a Thunder Dragon Colossus, and they can easily overlay that into the Zombie Stein. Versus Sky Striker, you really only have one target there, which is a bit unfortunate, and they also have Ego Booster to kind of negate the destruction or prevent the destruction. Versus Orcus OTK, well, there's not much you can do once they get that full setup. If they go for the Azathoth play, you can hit there. But if they're going for like a Boral Sword kill, like there's almost nothing you can hit. So you can be patient and wait for that Boral Sword to activate to gain attack upon attack declaration, because it does not gain attack right away. So Ogre is something that you can use to pop the Boral Sword. It's pretty decent, actually. Alright, next we have Valor Impermanence. This is a really amazing hand trap, and I see that it's kind of a necessity to play because if someone's playing Floodgate against you, or like a Floodgate monster, you can use it to turn them off. So versus Summon Sword, obviously block the summon. Versus Saryuja, it's amazing because you turn off the ability to summon out and you prevent the draw. So it's always good. Versus Phantom Knight Time Thief, you can block them from getting the PK engine out. And you can maybe even just interrupt them before that, and then they won't even have the Bardisha. But Bardisha is pretty easy to summon. Let's just face the facts. You can hit the Gazelle, you can hit the Sunlight Wolf. Those are pretty good. Sunlight Wolf, you prevent 2 cards from being added back to hand. But overall, I think you guys can give me more suggestions on if you have Impermanence, whether or not you want to use this on Gazelle or Sunlight Wolf. Gazelle, I think, is better because you just prevent them from adding something into the graveyard, like a trap or something that's very important. Then we have Thunder Guard Dragon. Normally you would want to save your Impermanence if your deck requires searching. However, most of the meta has already adapted to a non-search based meta. I get that there's a lot of decks that still want to search, but it's not that the Thunder Dragons are the issue. It's just that they have those negations to stick around with it. And there's just too many things to try and negate. So I would recommend negating the Summon Sork and the Saryuja Draw. That's basically it. If you have multiple forms of negation, say you have an Impermanence plus another out, and the only problem, say, is the Thunder Dragon play, that you can save it for the Thunder Dragon Colossus. Then we have Sky Striker, use it to hit Kagari, use it to hit Hayate, just prevent them from setting up their engine. It's pretty good. You can also, against the Orcus play, you can stop Borosor from gaining attack, so preventing the entire OTK, that is fine too. And if they go for the Phantom Knight stuff, of course you can hit the Phantom Knight side instead. So this is why there's 2 lines of columns right here. Next there's Reaper. Reaper works against all of the meta matchups. You can use it to stop Summon Sork, you can use it to stop Saryuja, just get rid of those cards. You can even use it to get rid of Azathoth, but remember, if you're playing Reaper, the only reason why it's good is because you have the extra deck space. And you're probably siding this stuff, but if you're not siding this stuff, well, Reaper is just as good as useless. So you can also use it to hit Colossus versus a Thunder Dragon matchup. If they are running a Light Aseka build, then you can use it to hit the Colossus because they probably won't have Titan in their deck. Otherwise, you can hit the Saryuja, because if they are running Titan, they're most likely running the non-Light Aseka build. And if they're running non-Light Aseka, they have Thunder Dragon Fusion to put all of those Colossus back. Okay, now we have Sky Striker. You can take out the Kagari, but make sure you take out the Kagari when they have like a token, because if they have the monster, then if they actually use the Ray, instead you should probably hit the Shizuku instead, or you can take out all the Hayates, whatever that floats your boat. And then we have Boral's Sword. You can take that out or take out the Summon Sork, and then they just really go nowhere. Alright, now for another fun one, we have Call by the Grave and DD Crow. I guess Call by the Grave isn't a hand trap, but you're just going to have it anyway. And DD Crow. DD Crow is pretty good. Does nothing against the Summon Sork, because they don't rely on the graveyard. But you can kind of prevent them from getting an additional monster, but that's about it. So not too much to add there. Call by the Grave would be not bad against the danger part. Doesn't do anything against Saryuja. So moving on to, I guess, the Time Thief Phantom Knight. You can use it to take... DD Crow can probably take out, say, one of the Phantom Knight monsters that would retrieve an additional body. That's alright. And you can usually stop it with the Orcus plays as well, so they just don't get the Orcus body to just use this for free. Then we have Salamanger Control. You can use it to take out the Spinny, and it's kind of fun if you do take out the Spinny, but keep in mind that the deck of Salamanger do have Call by the Grave in their deck to take care of hand traps, so it's not 100% success rate, but hey, it's pretty good when it does go off. You can also use it to stop the Jack Jaguar for summoning into the arrow of the Sunlight Wolf. That usually prevents a couple cards from being added back, so it works out in the end. And you can use it to take out like the traps that they put in the graveyard just in case if they already have everything, so you can make an easier board for you to deal with in the turn coming. And you can also use it to take out the Baelings if you have like a Raigeki to blow up their board, or like a Kaiju Slumber. Then we have Thunder Guard Dragon. Call by the Grave is amazing. Call is just really good against Hawk, Dark, Roar. But outside of that, it's kind of iffy. The only thing that you kind of want to hit early on in the very first turn is that if you see that they have 3 Darks in the graveyard, and you know that they're going to rip a card out of your hand, if you can manipulate it so that they don't have the 3 Darks, that's a call that you might have to make. Versus Sky Striker, Call by the Grave, and DD Crow, they're pretty good because you can use it to take out the Ray, and you can even crow out the Engage, which can stun them, but that depends on their hand, and it's kind of a mystery. But hitting out the Ray is always good. Then we have Orcust, OTK. You can take out the Nightmare, I guess the Orcust Nightmare, or the Symbol Skeleton. Symbol Skeleton just cripples them because they usually have a Summon Sork on the board. If they don't have the field spell, Orcust Babble, if they don't have Babble, then you can take out the Symbol Skeleton. If they do have Babble, then you probably want to get rid of the World Wand instead, because World Wand is the one card that cannot be chained. That doesn't become a quick effect. Alright, now we're on to Lancia. Does nothing against Summon Sork, does nothing against Saryuja. You prevent the Phantom Knight stuff from going off completely because they can't banish one of the Phantom Knights in the graveyard. So they have to have their own extension to get to the Time Thief. So that part is pretty good. And next we have Salamangreat Control. Salamangrates don't care about not being able to banish. In fact, they benefit off of not being able to banish regardless. Then we have Thunder Guard Dragon. You lock them out of the Chaos Dragons, so the Black Dragon and the White Dragon, they're completely locked out. The Thunder Dragons, they cannot banish, so overall you're not getting the free bodies. In other words, you shut down a ton of the summoning extension that comes from the deck. Sky Strikers, they don't care. In fact, they benefit off of Lancia, so don't run it, because the multi-roll stuff, they're just gonna stay back in the graveyard after activation. As for Orcus, being unable to banish is a heavy setback because they cannot, well, they can't use their Orcus monsters and they cannot use the World Wand. They're basically locked out from getting additional summons. So that would be the 6th hand trap. I did mention a 7th hand trap, and that's Droll and Lockbird. How good is Droll? Droll's pretty good against Saryuja. Nothing really against Summon Sork. So yeah, there's those two. Then we have Phantom Knight, Azathoth, and it's alright, I guess. I guess you can prevent the adding of a card to your hand, which could ultimately prevent the setting of the Phantom Knight rank up magic. Then we have, I guess, Salamangreat Control. Salamangreat, it's not very good because the only thing that you're ever going to stop them from searching is usually the field spell, and that's mainly because they summoned out a Lady Debug. Lady Debug is probably the only way that you're ever going to be able to draw them, because in the draw phase, a smart player would just activate the circle right away, and you cannot draw on the draw phase. Versus Thunder Guard Dragon, anything that plays danger, it's great because if they ditch the wrong card, well, this time they don't get to replenish their hand, so they're committing +1s. Sky Strikers, of course, obviously they don't get to play Engage as much as they want, and you lock them out of playing any more Engage after the very first one, or maybe even after the very first Terraforming, where they just have to play with what they got. And versus Orcus, Droll does nothing. The deck only needs to basically search out once, and that's it. They work with the graveyard, and they just summon straight from the deck. Deck lockdown seems like a better choice against them anyway. So that would be my hand trap run against all these matchups. Now we're going to go into the text. Alright, Dino Wrestler John Cena. We have Pankratops versus Summon Sork. You're not likely going to interact with this card. If you do have Pankratops up, you just pop it. If you have Saryuja, you just pop it. It seems simple enough, but overall, the interaction between these cards are very unlikely going to happen because Pankratops is a going second card, and if you have Pankratops, you just let the whole thing go through anyway. Doesn't mean that it's useless, it just means it's not gonna interact with that combo. Versus the Phantom Knight stuff, you can use it to pop off the Phantom Knight Time Thief, so that if they use the rank of magic, well, they just don't really get anything. And also, it's a big body. Even if you do get Azathoth, you can still summon Pankratops, and you can still use it as a body to ram into stuff. So you're not gonna die just because they're gonna Azathoth you, and then you have a big body to use. So yeah, overall, I think it's one of the better choices against the Azathoth combo. Then we have the Salamangreat control board. The problem is you can't really pop anything because of Balinx. Balinx is just gonna protect everything, but it is still a big body. So like in no circumstance where Pankratops would be a bad card. Now versus Thunder Guard Dragon, if they're just playing pure Thunder Dragon, it's pretty bad, let's just be honest. You can't pop their cards and they're just bigger in general. However, versus Thunder Guard Dragon, if they go full Wombo combo, Pankratops isn't that bad. If they have Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend, Abyss, and Zombie Stein, those cards can't stop Pankratops because Pankratops tributes itself for cost, and these cards need to negate stuff that's on the field. So you'll just chain. Don't let it resolve, because if you let it resolve, then Pankratops becomes useless, and Pankratops is not bigger than these guys. But being able to remove one of the negators, 1-for-1 trade, that's a very good step in the right direction. Then we have Sky Striker Control. I think it's just really good that it is a huge body, and it's chainable, so you don't have to worry about Widow Anchor as much. So there's a win right there. Then there is the Orcus OTK. If you have Pankratops, if you survive the OTK and they leave like a Boral Sword Dragon on the field, Pankratops can just pop it. Yeah. And surviving the OTK is the key thing against any sort of Orcus OTK or any sort of dark OTK. You know what? Boral Sword itself just kind of deserves its own column. Next we have Sphere Mode versus Summon Sork play. It's sometimes people that play the Summon Sork play, they lead to 3 monsters, but if they're smart, they'll usually link them off down to 2. Versus Saryuja, most people that play Saryuja somehow finishes the board with at least 3 monsters. Yeah, that's the case. And then there's the Phantom Knight, I guess Time Thief Azathoth combo. Usually there's 3 monsters on board. They have the link, that's on the extra monster zone, and then they have the Link that is the Bardiche, and then they have the Time Thief, and that will turn into Azeroth. So you can use it to kill off the entire board. Usually. I'm not saying that they won't get rid of their monster just to link up, just to get rid of the extra body for smear mode. Then there's Salamangreat Control. You can usually use this because they finish with 3 monsters, but a lot of the smarter players, they've just been not playing the field spell and just committing more material, finishing off with 2 monsters on board, and then you can't sphere mode them. And then there's Thunder Guard Dragon. Yeah, easily 3+ monsters on the opening board. Versus Sky Striker, obviously they don't have 3 monsters on board most of the time, so this is a very useless side. And then versus Orcus, it's not very good because it only is useful if their combo fails. And sometimes even when their combo fails, they still only finish with 2 monsters on board. So kind of iffy. So not exactly the most ideal, but it's still pretty good against the Phantom Knight Time Thief Azathoth. Okay, time for Kaijus. Summon Sork play, and there's... What do you do against Summon Sork anyway? You don't do anything. Saryuja, kind of a bit too late. If you have it, it doesn't really do anything. Kind of the same situation as Pankratops. You can use it to answer something, but it's not exactly there to stop it. Phantom Knight, this one's okay. You can use it to take out one of the bodies, but you're still giving them like a 22 body at the very least, and you're still not able to activate effects. So if you have a Kaiju and a Pankratops, that's really good. If you don't have a Kaiju and a Pankratops, you guys will have to deal with the board on your own. And if they have any sort of like counter traps or anything in the back row, well, that's on you. So yeah, Kaiju, it's just like a supportive card to the Pankratops. At least Pankratops is a good standalone. Kaiju, not so much. Versus Salamangreat, if they only made 1 link, yeah, this is amazing. You just throw a Kaiju. So usually what you're gonna do is you're gonna throw a hand trap at them to stop them from making additional bodies, and then you're gonna throw a Kaiju for the remaining link monster. And if you do get that, then you turn off basically the entire back row. There might still be like an Impermanence or a Call by the Grave, but you don't have to deal with a double pop, and that is a win in my book, but it is situational. Versus Thunder Guard Dragon or Thunder Dragons, you need more outs than just 1 Kaiju, which is why this is, it's an add-on, not a full-blown counter. Versus Sky Striker, yeah, this is really good because you can just turn off most of the back row. The only thing you really have to deal with at that point is either a Solemn Strike if they have Strike, or if they have Impermanence. Outside of Impermanence, you have to deal with hand traps if they have a hand, but if they set everything, this just makes it really easy to play. And versus Orcus OTK, it does nothing, and it does not contribute to breaking their board for the most part, because you'll be dead if you have a dead card in your hand. Alright. Now we have Evenly Match. How good is Evenly Match? Well, does nothing to stop the Saryuja / Summon Sword play, so we'll just move on from there. Versus the Phantom Knight Time Thief combo, I think it's pretty good because you don't really, you don't lose out on activating traps, and traps are still just going to rip apart that board. Takes away at least 2 bodies perhaps, and then you don't have too much to worry about in terms of getting into lethal. If you can put out additional traps, maybe you'll survive. And don't forget, you can still set cards, you can still play monsters just to chump block. So Evenly, a pretty solid choice. Versus Salamangreat Control, you have to bait out the counter trap first before you can even go into the Evenly. That's it. If you can bait it out, then you can play the Evenly. Otherwise, not so much. So if you have Pankratops plus an Evenly, now you're talking business. So next we have Thunder Guard Dragon. You can use it if you can, I guess, get rid of the negation, and if you have something else paired with it, you will rip their entire board apart. Usually there's not going to be too much to follow up after that, because the Thunder Dragon play commits a lot of the extra deck already. So whatever that they come back with is going to be, I don't know, a quarter of the strength that normally you would have to deal with on the very first turn. Almost like a 1-pump chump. Then we have a Sky Striker Control. If you evenly them, they are a deck that needs to commit, so they would probably avoid committing too much in games 2 and 3. But if they do commit, well, this is a complete blowout. Nothing much they can do about it. Next, we have a Floodgate-esque, I
guess kind of, it's not really a hand trap, but Scythe, Artifact, Scythe, an extra deck lockout. Summon Sork, you lock them up from summoning. Saryuja, they can't even get into him. No Azathoth, no Salamangreats, no Thunder Guard Dragon. But against Thunder Guard Dragon, the problem is a lot of the regular monsters in the deck, they're still really big, bigger than your Scythe. So don't expect that the Scythe body is going to live, and you'll have to face down against a ton of these big beaters, or maybe he'll completely wall off, preventing you from OTKing them the next turn. So I've gotten Scythe before, and I'm playing Danger Thunder Guard Dragon, and I can tell you that I've gotten Scythe many times, and all I did is, here's my Nessie, and here's my Jackalope, and here's a Thunder Dragon that you don't want to kill. And then I usually survive after that. And yeah, there you go. So what about Sky Striker? Yeah, you can't really use Scythe against Sky Striker. And you know, to any of the decks that run Impermanence, of course, if they do it to your opening turn, it's not very good. So don't just shotgun the Scythe. It's kind of pointless. Wait till they put a body out so that they can't use Impermanence to turn it off. However, Sky Strikers, they have Widow Anchor, and Widow Anchor can turn off the Scythe before it can successfully resolve in locking people out. That's why it's not good against Sky Striker. And for Orcust, yeah, it's pretty good against Orcust. They without the extra deck, they can't really get into anything big. And other techs, we have Inspector Border and Majesty's Fiend. I guess I could have put in Vanity's Fiend, but Vanity's Fiend kind of fits in the same category as Scythe. It's a complete blowout against most of these matchups, except for Salamangreat, because Salamangreat, they have traps, and they can use traps to deal with you. But anyways, Majesty's Fiend and Inspector Border, you lock them out from summoning completely. Maybe the Phantom Knight side and the Azathoth combo might have something going for them, but otherwise, they're completely locked out. And getting into any of these plays require them to activate stuff from the graveyard, hand, or on the field to establish a board. So it's really good against everyone except for Sky Striker. Again, Widow Anchor being able to just negate the effect of the monster. It just gives him that edge. And for any deck that has Impermanence, they can turn off the Majesties or the Inspector Border, which lets them play. And that one turn is enough to kind of crush everything. And for Sky Striker, on top of that, they are also able to use Afterburner to take care of the issue as well. So not very good against Sky Striker. Versus Orcust, pretty good because they need to activate stuff from the graveyard. And we are done with this page. Holy crap, are you guys still with me? If you guys are, just hit the thumbs up or leave your suggestions on other things that you can use against various matchups. Man, I got one last page for you guys, and which would be the Floodgates. For Floodgates, let's start with there can be only one. I hope I pronounced it in the right order. Okay, so Summon Sork play, you can't really get into Summon Sork. Obviously, you need two monsters of the same type, and you can only control one. So obviously, you can't meet the condition of Summon Sork, Summon Recipe. Then we have Saryuja. As long as you're not playing a dragon, you can get there. But most people are playing dragons. In that case, if you're playing Thunder Guard Dragon, yeah, you're kind of locked out. But otherwise, yeah, you can still go into Saryuja. And once you go into Saryuja, if you're playing Thunder Guard Dragon without that, then you can't really summon out your dragon side. So you're still locked out of half your plays in a Thunder Guard Dragon deck. For anyone else, of course, you can do whatever you want. You can still go into Saryuja and it doesn't really stop you. But it's still a decent card to prevent you from getting access to that Saryuja. As for the Phantom Knight Time Thief Azathoth, you're going to be locked into warriors, and when you're locked into warriors, you're not going to be able to use the summon from the trap. The trap monster that summons out the level 4, yeah, he's not going to come out because he's a warrior, and you're locked into Bardiche being the warrior. You're kind of locked out. Also, you might trip over yourself with like machines if you're playing the Orcust side. For Salamangreats, yes, it's pretty good against Salamangreat because you lock them into one Cyrus monster, and the entire deck is made up of one type. However, they have traps, and because they have traps, and sometimes they might even go into Abrio, because that's where the psychics come in. There can only be one that can get blasted back, and that is going to be a major setback. So there's that. So if they run the psychic wielder, they can blow it back, or if they just summon out, say, an Ash Blossom, and then they just synchro, that's fine too. Or if they just overlay or they link into a Nightmare Phoenix, because they're not fiends, they can still pop it, which is why it's kind of iffy. Same for Thunder Guard Dragon. If they have a Thunder monster and a Dragon monster combined with, say, well, you just link them off into Phoenix, well, it gets to pop it off for free. as long as they're not using Phantom Sky Blaster. As for Sky Striker, it's pretty decent, but if they manage to fill up their grave and they have a copy of Afterburner, they'll be able to pop it. So yeah, that's kind of a give and take. Against Orcas, it's pretty good. If they're trying to use the machines, they're not able to fully utilize them in this case, so it does slow them down and lock them out. But what about Rivalry of Warlords? If you use Rivalry, it's pretty good because you lock Summon Sork into only summoning out spellcasters. So I don't know which monster that's going to work out for, but yeah, overall you prevent the Summon Sork play from happening. First is Saryuja. Mono-typing out Saryuja is very difficult in most decks. They usually rely on tokens, they go into Link Spiders, and that means you're not just using a single type anymore. And if you don't go into all dragons, you're not going to be able to summon out Saryuja. As for the Phantom Knight, Time Thief, Azathoth, you might be locking yourself into warriors, or you might be locking yourself into machines. Versus Salamangreats, it does nothing. They're monotype. Versus a Thunder Guard Dragon. Okay, here's the thing about Thunder Guard Dragon. They can get rid of a Rivalry if they're playing the Dragon lineup. If they go into Phoenix, that's fine, because they can get into Nightmare Phoenix using a single copy of Phantom Sky Blaster. If they're just playing dragons, they might force out Levianeer to pop the card. And if they're playing pure Thunder monsters, then you'll have to deal with a bunch of Thunder Dragon Colossi. So, you know, give and take. For Sky Striker, it's only good when you're able to lock them into their first summon. It's not very good against them because they're just basically all machines once they reach the extra deck, and it doesn't really stop them. For Orcus is kind of neat because if they use the Nightmare Mermaid and you lock them into Fiends, they're kind of stuck. They can't summon out any of the machines, or if they have the machines, they can't get out the free dudes. It does cause them to trip over themselves, and once they're locked into just only using machines, they can't go into like Boral Sword or anything else like that. So it kind of limits their vision down a very weak play. Now, as for Gozen, it doesn't work really well against Summon Sork because Summon Sork is dark and you can just play with just pure dark to get to where you need to go. So based on that, it's kind of iffy, especially if they're going with the Orcus plays. It doesn't really matter for them, so it's iffy. But versus like a Saryuja is Earth, and for most of the decks we see today, they use darks, lights, fire, and then I guess all attributes for like Sky Strikers, but not just a single attribute, so getting access to Saryuja is going to be a lot more difficult. Name like 4 Earth monsters that you can summon to get into that Saryuja, and I'll give you a cookie or something. Then we have Phantom Knight, doesn't really matter, they're all dark. Salamander Control, all fire. Thunder Dragons, they can pop the card before it becomes an issue, and they can still play with just pure darks, by the way. And Sky Striker Control, that's pretty good because you can't summon out anything once you've linked into the first monster, so that cripples them quite a bit. But once they get into the Ray, they can't even tag the Ray out because there's no Dark Sky Striker. That's a confirmed fact that there is no Dark Sky Striker, and I hope they don't make a Dark Sky Striker, because if they do, this is gonna get hella confusing because Ray will actually open up to summon out basically any of these Sky Striker monsters once that's available. So I don't know, Konami, you let me know if you're gonna make that call. Now we have Orcus is all dark, don't really care. Okay, moving on. Summon limit. I guess it's good against everything except for Sky Striker. Sky Strikers, they don't really need to spam that much summon. They usually max out maybe 3-ish if they really want to go far, and they can usually just pop the summon limit with spells and traps. Whereas Thunder Dragons, Salamangreats, everyone, they just need to go into multiple summons before they can even get access to the pop, which can buy you a turn, and that one turn is probably enough for you to take their setup back to ground zero. So yeah, there's that. Skill Drain, it's basically good against everything. Versus Salamangreats, they still have to deal with the traps. Versus Thunder Guard Dragons and Thunder Dragons, you still have to deal with a ton of big monsters, like 3k and above. That's what I'm talking about. It's really hard. And if they go into Zombie Stein, you're dealing with a 4.5k beat stick. Yeah, so good luck with that. As long as you have spells and traps, maybe it's easier to deal with, but overall, it's gonna be a tough grind against these big monsters. You're pushing a boulder up a mountain at that point. Then you have Sky Striker. I guess it's pretty good against them, I suppose. I guess you can turn off their ability to add cards, so it's decent. Versus Orcus, most of the stuff is grave-centric, and they also can go into very big monsters. And as for an irrelevant Floodgate, we have Anti-Spell Fragrance. Most decks don't even play spells, but against the Phantom Knight Azathoth, it's pretty good, because as a quick play, if you set it, you can't activate it, and you have to wait till the entire next turn, so it basically takes away the entire quick play aspect of the card. Versus Sky Striker, everything needs to be set, so yeah, not a very ideal card. If your matchup has a lot of Sky Striker, maybe you can consider this, but outside of that, most decks are playing traps and monsters, so you know, give that a thought. And that is all I got for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this hand trap, Floodgate, tech, ultimate counter guide for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit me up with a thumbs up. I know it was a long video, but hey, this is what you guys want to deal with, and if this is what you guys are dealing with, I'm hoping that I can provide you with some level of support. If there's anything you want to add onto this chart, like good counters, maybe even talk about the interactions versus various things that I might be incorrect on, leave it down in the comment section below. Even if it's situational, I want to kind of weigh my options, and this chart here is to help you weigh your options. And hit that subscribe button if you also want to give me that option as well. Haha. And anyways, that is it for this video, guys. Hopefully tomorrow's, if you guys are going to locals, you want to prepare a side deck, you guys think about me in your dreams, because that is absolutely not awkward. Alright guys, that's all. And hit subscribe, hit like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.